Oops. Ah. Oh, you're here to make me feel better. Okay. Yeah, so we're not getting a convention video now. Just gonna hang out for the whole video, or are you just here seeking a little bit of attention? Oh jeez, you're gonna bump everything around. Yeah. You are gonna fall asleep, aren't you? Yeah. Okay, so how are we starting this one? Alright, so in this video I'm gonna talk about the upgrades that I did to both the Sister Battle suit here and my Warhammer Chaplain suit. Did these over like the last 3 weeks, I want to say. Oh, nope. Now you're awake? Or are you changing your mind? Huh? How about I let you on the floor and you decide down there? Okay. Okay, so originally, normally after October, November and December, it's kind of like a big dead period for me. I don't usually do a whole lot. I catch up on like my video games and stuff, but oh, I apologize, I'm still drinking lots of coffee. I'm still sick. It's normally my period where I don't get a lot of stuff done craft wise. I get caught up in everything else. So originally I was going to spend that time just upgrading some suits, fixing some stuff. I had a list of everything for all the suits that I want to keep, because usually I'll keep some suits for a couple years until they kind of like outgrow their use, or I don't wear them anymore. Now I'll pitch them just to make room for new stuff. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep the Raynor suit. Probably the same with the Nier Automata robot. But I had a list of everything I wanted to do to all of them. Like one of my other videos I mentioned that they a lot of them got damaged in storage while we were moving. We had contractors in the house all summer, so we couldn't bring the suits home, so they stayed in the storage unit, and just all that heat. It didn't mess up. There wasn't like any warping or anything, but anything that was held on with hot glue, like fasteners and stuff, that all came off. Then there were just upgrades. I wanted to do things anyway. But I found out that Steel City Con was going to be in December, which is, it's usually always, there's always one in December. They have like 2 or 3 a year. I was off that weekend, so I'm like, ooh, I've never did their costume contest. Let's fix up some of these and, you know, go into the costume contest, have some fun. So I spent the last 3 weeks upgrading the 2 Warhammer suits, made a couple extra things. I've always had my complaints with Steel City Con. This isn't going to, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and rant about Steel City Con. I mean, I could. Steel City Con has never been a very cosplayer friendly convention, so why they even have a costume contest, I have no idea. It's a very small venue. It is so small, and they're very focused on celebrity guests over anything else. Like, it has one, I think it only has one panel room. It's insanely small. The vendor aisle is even smaller. You can't walk through anything in a costume. But I kind of figured that going in. We've went there in costume once before with our Nier Automata stuff, and it was, even just going down the main aisle, it was insanely cramped. But we thought, you know, it'll be fun, something to do in the winter time, give me motivation to upgrade some of my suits. And then I figured, worst case scenario, it'd be in December, it might snow or something. You know, even if we don't go, you know, these two suits aren't going anywhere for a while, so the upgrades, you know, they need them. They'll make them last a little longer, you know, raise their quality up a little bit. And so I was all for it. So I swear I'll get to talking about what all upgrades we did. You know, day of comes, that was earlier today. Check the weather. It's like a 50% chance of rain snow mix. And we thought, you know, well, maybe we shouldn't, but at the same time we're like, oh, maybe the crowd won't be so bad. It'll be easier to get around, you know. Everyone will stay home because of the weather. Oh, is that a bad... That was just... I should have stayed home. We got there probably like 20 minutes before the doors opened, and obviously there's a line. There's always going to be a line before the doors open. We were expecting that. We were like, oh, we can get in early, because the costume contest wasn't until 1, and we got there like 9:30 almost. Lines wrapped around the block. Parking lot's full. The parking lot across the street to like Burlington and Joann's, they had a security guard there telling everyone they could not park there, literally shooing everyone away. And I'm like, okay, I kind of get it, because it's straight across the street. So obviously everywhere around the convention center was packed. We drove around for 45 minutes trying to find somewhere to park. Yeah, eventually we ended up being a couple blocks away in the mall parking lot. We were like, okay, you know, we'll wait for the initial line to die down. You know, there's never a line longer than the first hour. So we walk around the mall till like maybe 10:30. And when we come out of the mall, the entire mall parking lot is full. Like every parking lot in the entire area is jam-packed, and it was like a logistical nightmare, because like walking in the Terminator suit, in the Chaplain suit, it's very slow and clunky, and I was gonna have to walk across multiple roads that were busy either in this stuff or carrying this stuff, and there was no way I was carrying it. And it was just me and her. We couldn't have gotten like other people to help us carry things across. We probably could have if I asked people, but while we were walking around the mall and stuff, she was looking on her phone, and everyone was saying that they're already at max capacity. It's like 30 minutes in and they're at max capacity, and I'm like, I don't understand why you would even sell this many tickets. You know what I mean? We even pre-ordered tickets. Apparently people with VIP passes couldn't even get in. We had to really sit there and think about it, because our original plan was like, well, if it's still packed, maybe we'd drive to the front, unload the car, and she'd go repark, and then she'd run up and catch up with me. And by the time we found that out, it's like, well, do we really want to stand in costume out in this on-off rain snow in like 32-degree weather, and then stand out there for 2 hours just to get in? It's like, would we even make it to the costume contest on time? It was so frustrating. Eventually we just said, screw it. We just got in the car, and we were just like, I'll circle the block 1 or 2 more times, try and find somewhere. By the time we got out onto the main road, I knew it was time to just leave. Traffic was backed up in every direction, everyone trying to get in, and there was, at that point, there's nowhere left to park. Like, I get it, because they had a lot of like big A-list celebrities. I mean, they had every Hobbit from the Lord of the Rings, from like Elijah Wood, all 4 of them. They had freaking like Michael Biehn, Lance Hendrickson, Edward Furlong. Like, they had like the entire like Terminator / Alien celebrity people. Chevy Chase. Like, there were 40 really big celebrities in this tiny building that was about like the size of like a regular shopping store, like with no parking. I don't know. I refuse to go to that convention again until they get a bigger place. Go somewhere until they go somewhere else. I don't care if it's even in Pittsburgh, because right now they have it on the outskirts. It's not a cosplayer friendly place. Like right now, I made a big rant about this on Facebook, but right now, their entire business model is buy your ticket, get inside, get your autograph, and then get the hell out. That's their business model, and you know that's fine. That's perfectly fine if that's what they want. If that's what people go to get, I mean, sure, but you're not going to have not a cosplay experience, but you're not going to have any kind of convention experience going to that. But that's what Steel City Con is. So, not a cosplayer friendly place. Cosplayers not going. I mean, it's disappointing because beforehand I went and I got a ton of business cards. I made them, I designed them, I posted them all on Facebook. I think they're really cool, but I'll save them for the next convention we go to. Okay, so rant over on that. It was a complete nightmare. To try and salvage it, because she was excited to dress up, because it's been a while since she got to dress up in anything fancy, aside from something that we store bought. I'm usually just making something for myself because it's usually time constrained or something. So she was excited to get dressed up. I was excited to get dressed up. I'm going to try and contact a couple of my friends who do photography and stuff. See if I can set up like a photo shoot or something, just to try to justify the work. And I've never done a cosplay shoot anyway, so I built both of these back in 2019, and since then I've done a couple different upgrades to them. I kind of covered them in a couple of my other videos. Well, I made them in 2019, 2020, nothing. 2021, made the gun, and then this year, pulled it out of storage like a week before, so there wasn't a whole lot I could do. Just did some highlights and touch-ups, fixed everything up. So I've had this huge list of stuff I've been wanting to do to them for a while. So that list that I originally had for everything I wanted to do to everything, I set it aside and then just took everything from the Warhammer stuff, put that front and center. It's like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm going to refine this list and then prioritize what I can. First up, we'll talk about the Chaplain, what all I did to it. First thing I wanted to do on the list was I wanted to articulate the toes on the boot. The idea was that right now the boots are very clunky, partially because they're very wide, but also because they're very long. I figure if I narrowed up my foot base, I'd be a lot more nimble, maybe raise my shoe up a little bit. But immediately I found out that would require me to almost rebuild the entire thing, and I was trying to use materials that I already had because I didn't really want to spend any money on these upgrades. Just mostly use stuff I still have in the little storage room. After I kind of set them all up and kind of examined everything, I ran into a couple issues. Like, I realized that to make the toe bend, the placement of where I had my shoe, I couldn't actually have the toe retract because it would have interfered with my foot. So I would have had to raise my foot up like an extra inch or two above the boot, which still would have been held within the leg cover, so that would have been fine. And I did kind of want to raise the legs up anyway, just a little bit. So it would have all worked, but it would have required a complete redesign and tear down of the shoes, and I didn't have time for that. So while I was looking at the boot, I kind of realized that I did kind of almost half solve my original issue, since I couldn't make the toe articulate. I think it was because I had the shoe inside and I wasn't able to retract the toe of the boot. What I did was actually elevated the toe a little bit, so it actually has room to rock for when I walk. So I don't have to clump as much as I thought I did. Or maybe it still feels like I clump a lot, but if I was to rebuild the whole thing, I wouldn't gain that much extra freedom. I'll still keep it on the list. I'll still consider it, maybe next year, maybe the next time I have some free time. But as for now, I figured it was good enough. It wouldn't hurt anything. If I get all red in the face, it's just because I just had a coughing fit. Alright, so first on the list of things I actually did get done then. The first thing I want to do was patch up the knee covers. So I think it was like the second year I had the suit. I bought some fabric and I covered up the elbows so you wouldn't actually see my arms inside. If you look at some of my older photos, if the light caught me from behind, you could see straight through and see my arms. I saw that immediately and I was like, I think I wanted to get it done originally when I first made it, but usually when you're crunched for time, you can't get everything done. And it was a compromise I had to make. In one of my other videos, I kind of mentioned that I did end up going to Joann's to get fabric, and came home, realized that I bought the wrong fabric, and then immediately after I found out that I already had leftover fabric from the first time, because when I made the elbow covers, I intended to do both the elbows and the knees, and I saved the fabric because I was going to use it. And well, these were insanely easy to do. I just did it's like 1.5 2-inch strips of fabric, and then just sewed it all together in a pattern. Normally, like your Space Marines and everything like that, they all have like this accordion style, like 70s sci-fi boot cover kind of thing that you'd normally see like in automotive stuff or any kind of mechanical thing, just to kind of like cover moving parts so nothing gets dirty. Super easy to make. I ended up doing the same thing for the neck of the helmet, because if you get up high enough, you can usually see my neck in some videos and photos. Normally I'm tall enough that that's not the issue, but someone gets their camera up high enough, you'll see like the light on my neck. I used a couple leftover sheets, glued them to the inside of the helmet too. Well, I'm not gonna say it was super quick, it was insanely tedious to cut and sew all of them. Hi! Sewing is insanely tedious. I hate sewing. We got another cat break. Uh-oh, cat butt. You're mooning the screen. Alright, so next up on the list of things for the chaplain was the tabard that was between the legs. I never really liked the original one I made. I was in real panic. So when I did it, I was trying to find like what was actually written on the tabard in the game, and I could not find it. I couldn't find like a high quality res image. It was very wordy, so instead I looked around online to try and find what people normally write on like the purity seals and all those tabards and stuff, and the answer I always got was, well, we just write whatever we want. We just write it in Latin, that way, you know, no one knows what we're writing. But I think when they were talking about that, I think they were talking about the miniatures and not actual costumes, and I didn't even realize that at the time. What I did was I wrote in Latin. I would use Google Translate and just wrote like a non-disclaimer thing, like this is a work of fan art, please don't sue me, or something like that. It was very short, which meant the letters were very big. If you've seen the actual like in-game screenshots and stuff, it's a very wordy tabard. So I wanted something that would fit that. So I kind of hopped on the Warhammer wiki, looked up both the Deathwing and the Dark Angels, which is the Deathwing is a subdivision of the Dark Angels. Oh my god. Are you being a camera hog? And I tried finding like a quote that was like very wordy but also very specific to them. Yes, sit down. And I found one, I can't remember exactly what the source was, but it was very much about the Dark Angels and all that stuff. Probably not something that they would have on their thing to kind of give away the whole Dark Angels Dark Secret thing, but it was at least relevant, so it made it a lot better than what I had, and it was very wordy, so I like that. Alright, so yeah, what I used was a like a very low thread count muslin fabric, if I'm pronouncing that right. It's basically just like cotton fabric. I think people normally use it for like pattern making, but it's supposedly like it's a very cheap fabric, but it looks the part for like something like a tabard or a scroll. So I thought it was pretty. It fit the part. It was very cheap, so I went with that. Lettering wise, I used a very fine tip Sharpie. I took the quote off of the wiki, put it in a document, changed the text to something very gothic, and then just did my best to transcribe it as best I could. It looks pretty good. And then for the Imperium logo on the bottom, all I did was I scaled up an image on my computer screen, got some painter's tape, put that on the computer screen, traced it, put it, freaking cut it out, put it on the tabard, and I just filled it in. It was cheap and effective. It did its job for sure. After that, I did a couple shoulder adjustments. Originally, the idea was I wanted to redo the entire shoulder mounting. I think like this was as far as my arms could go out. I wanted to be able to actually bring them out probably about this far, and the shoulders I wanted them to bend with it because they didn't really bend that much to begin with. Turned out most of the problem was not so much the mounting hardware itself, but just how tight everything was fitting in together. So I just opened some things up, and everything just started moving a lot better. And I was like, well, that's another huge time saver. The entire shoulder mounting for the pauldrons was also the arm mounting for the arms. So the arm would just kind of slide down through, and then the shoulder piece would come down on top. But it all fit so snug. It was very rigid. So I just cut open all the holes where everything kind of slid down through. That gave everything room to wiggle a little bit. Fixed the problem. Because originally I think I bought like door stoppers. That way everything kind of had like a point, so it had room to wiggle. Didn't need any of it. I might still redesign it later because I never really looked into how other Warhammer cosplayers do their mounting, because a lot of these guys, they can move their arms until the shoulder pieces hit the body. Like, they have so much range. I still don't have that much range, but let's see. Did I do anything else? Probably like on the last day or two. So there's like a little shield on the shoulder. I forgot to record this one. I did it because it only took 5 minutes to do. Everything with the chaplain was insanely quick. So the shoulder is supposed to have like a little crown above the skull and like a key in the mouth. The skull's too big to fit the crown, but I was like, oh, I should still at least do the key. So I grabbed a couple small foam dowels that I had, and then just mocked up a key, shoved it up inside the mouth of the skull. Super easy. Anything else? No, that's actually everything with a Warhammer suit, or everything with a chaplain suit at least. Most of the upgrades were mostly done to this suit over here. I first went through and I cleaned up a bunch of lines, and then highlighted a bunch of edges, repainted some stuff. That alone probably took like a night or two, but it looks so much cleaner now. The details pop a little more. I did the same with the bolter right here. Yeah, I repainted everything on it, try and make it a little more I don't know, clean, I guess. The fabric work on the body piece, it was a full extra part in itself, and it was too much of a hassle to put on. and the fabric I used was very crappy. So when we were doing our test fitting, she didn't like it, I didn't like it. Too much of a pain in the butt for her to deal with, and I didn't like the way it looked to begin with. It's too I'm trying to remember. It was like, I won't say I'd call it a stretchy fabric, but when you sewed it, it just didn't want to stay its shape. It just wanted to curl, if that makes any sense. So I tried looking for a red fabric that kind of matched a similar texture to what I used on the Chaplain, where it's thick and rigid, but it's also soft, and I can't remember exactly what I used, but yeah. Took the original part, chopped it up, made a pattern out of it, cleaned things up, made it a little bit bigger, sewn that all up, and then attached it directly to the pieces. That way it's one less thing to put on. It's already attached to the body, so the sleeves are already attached to the chest armor, and then the little tabard between the legs is already attached to the belt. After that, I made this chain sword here. I'll have a video just on that, because that was a very fun build. I mean, it is hands down my favorite prop I've made so far. It only took like a night and a half to make, and it was, I would get up and go grab it, but somebody's sitting on my lap. Same with the purity seals on this. I'm gonna have a video on those as well, because they were also a fun, quick little make. I could have made them better, definitely. The actual stamps themselves, trying to work with stuff I got and trying to work on a deadline, I missed a couple steps that I could have done. The only other major upgrade money-wise that I had to spend on the sister battlesuit. So I think both my sister and my girlfriend were the same size shoe, because this suit was originally made for my sister, but they're about the same height and everything. So we tried it on first before I started doing the upgrades, and it all fit her, but the shoes were just a hair narrow. I don't know if this was the same issue that my sister had, maybe, but she never brought it up. I think she might have just dealt with it, but I figured I want my girlfriend to be comfortable, so we went around the stores, tried to find something similar size, like $30 for a pair of platform boots. I kind of had to rip apart the shoe covers, kind of make them fit again, since the shoes were, I think they're like half a size big, so we went from a size 8 to a size 8.5. Yeah, so the night before we ended up doing a quick test fitting for her. For some reason the backpack was pulling on the neck piece, because the neck guard and the pauldrons are all one unit, and it just sits on the body. There's like a elevated part on the chest armor that kind of like locks it in so it doesn't move around. Well, it doesn't move around like this, but for some reason the backpack was pulling it up and actually pulling the face part up. So I just got some Velcro, gave it a piece right here so it would stay. Like, so many tiny little fixes like that. Oh yeah, for the Chaplain I also added some extra shoulder padding. I wanted to raise the body up like maybe a half an inch, so I added like a small layer of foam, then I added some cushion foam on top to make it more comfortable. Inside the framework, I think when I originally made it, I ran out of piping, so I had to put two pieces together, and the only piece I had to kind of fuse them together was a T, and the one piece of the T was like actually sticking into my chest. So I took a Dremel, cut that off, wrapped everything in foam, that way that entire piece there, if it does rub against me, it's not as tough. There's also like these LEDs in the top corners that are supposed to be kind of like floodlights, so when these Terminators would like go into like a Space Hulk, you know, lights are out and everything, this is how they see it. It's their flashlights. They don't have flashlights on their gun, they have flashlights on their suits. I had them hooked up and the battery hooked up, but I never had a toggle switch for them. Hooked that up, redid some wiring. I did a lot of tiny little small things, so such a list of just tiny little things that could have been done here and there, but I'm glad I got them done. Probably not the most detailed video. Probably what I'll do is I'll probably take some of those videos and just make a couple of quick time lapses, because just describing them, it's such a mundane thing, I don't think I could actually make any of that sound exciting. Which is why I'll talk about the chainsword and the purity seals in their own video, because those were a ground up video from start to finish. Now that I have time, I probably could refine my entire technique and make them again. No. I don't need to waste more time. So, what's coming up next then? Jeez. Sci-Fi Valley Con is probably the next convention I'm actually excited about. That's going to be in June, so I'm going to take maybe 2 weeks off, edit these videos, play some games with her, and try and figure out what we want to make for next year. I'd say if anything, this entire experience with Steel City has made me want to go even harder at Sci-Fi Valley Con next year, because it's 2019 was the last costume that I made, which was the 2 that I just fixed up. I mean, the shutdown screwed some things up and everything in between, house moving and stuff like that. Yeah, between the RoboCop suit that I made for the Halloween sessions and fixing these up, like, I have that itch to make something. And for how we didn't even get inside the building, show off the costume, take part of the costume contest, because I love the costume contests. It's not like the winning part, or it's the backstage part, the showing it off, talking to other cosplayers, all that stuff. Steel City Con's just not a place for costumes. I should have known better. So unless there's something in between, that's going to give me about 5 months to build something. As I'm what I'm building yet, still don't know. I've been playing a lot of Darktide, and I'm really liking it. I could see me getting inspired to do something like that, but I could also find myself doing something that she wants as well. It really depends, because I think the Tech Priest in Darktide is pretty cool. I don't know if she would want to wear something like that, and then I don't know what I would make. Could also do a monster. I don't know, I'm just brainstorming. But yeah, I have to come back hard for Sci-Fi Valley Con. Well, this video went on for way too long. I have no idea how to end this. I'm not going back to Steel City Con, I know that. And I just want to work on something. This whole weekend sucked.